لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. After thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and giving him all praises and salutations and peace and blessing and security upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and then those that are upon his way, I want to thank everyone for attending this new feature lesson, which will continue for the next 2 months at least, concerning the signs of the Day of Judgment. And I especially want to reach out to and thank the many youngsters that have attended today. It's so nice to see you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us all to benefit from each other. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, فَهَلْ يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَّا السَّاعَةَ أَنْ تَأْتِيَهُمْ بَغْتَةً فَقَدْ جَاءَ أَشْرَاطُهَا. So are you waiting? Are they waiting for the Day of Judgment to occur, for the Day of Judgment to happen? Are they waiting for this? That it will just come all of a sudden. Indeed, the signs of the last day, the signs of the Day of Judgment have already come. They've already arrived. So the signs, ashratuha, the signs of the Day of Judgment, they're already here. They're around us and they've been occurring in the past also. And some are to occur in the future. So it's very important for the Muslim identity or for a person's Islam that he must and she must believe in the Day of Judgment. Right from the grave onwards, the fact that we're going to be raised out of our graves, the fact that we're going to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's that person's Day of Judgment for him ready there. But in this world, all the signs that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Allah Azza wa Jalla has mentioned in the Quran, we need to know about them. And there are various reasons of why we need to know about this. So one can ask a question, and I want to start with this question. Why are we covering this topic for? Why is this topic so important? And there's a few reasons. The first reason is that this discusses the knowledge of the unseen. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. The believers are those who believe in that which is in the unseen. So when we learn about the signs of the Day of Judgment, we learn about that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has informed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about, and He's informed the Ummah about. So it's very important that we know about these signs, because the Day of Judgment is not going to be an easy affair. And the signs of the Day of Judgment are there so that we can be fully aware of what to stay away from and what to expect. And the believer is always prepared. The believer is always prepared. Why not prepare for the thing which will eventually end this world? Why not prepare for our own deaths and that which follows it? So that's the first thing, that you learn about the knowledge of the unseen. And this knowledge of the unseen has been given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who's passed it on to us. As a side point of belief, of iman, we must also know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one who is the alimul ghayb, the only one who has the knowledge of the unseen. وَعِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُ. The keys of the knowledge of the unseen are only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, if Allah Azza wa Jalla had not informed the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam of these events, me and you would not have known about it today. This is very important to bear in mind. So Allah is the one who is the possessor of the knowledge of the unseen. And He parted some of it, that knowledge, to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam to pass on to the Ummah. And this is a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, through learning about the signs of the Day of Judgment, we learn that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the most truthful of people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to us. Because we see around us the signs occurring, and we're going to go through them inshallah. And this should only increase our iman in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because that which he said 1400 and something years ago, Some of the things have happened and some of them are to happen. And the things which have happened, they are right before us. This shows that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam had a deep connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This should increase us in our iman. The third reason is that to believe in the Day of Judgment and all of the components and that which it entails is a part of our iman. Without this, as I said, we cannot be Muslim. When we look at the signs, we're going to see that the minor signs especially are all about sins and corrupt actions that the people are going to fall into, the ummah is going to fall into. And you'll see hadith where the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam will have said, from the signs of the day is so and so, or the Day of Judgment won't be established until so and so thing happens, so and so sin happens. The scholars of Islam have said that as we get nearer to the Day of Judgment, as time goes on, we're getting nearer. And more of these sins are occurring in society. More and more of these signs are occurring in society. It shows a weakness of iman. It shows that the belief and the iman of the Muslims is becoming weaker. That's why far more of these signs are occurring. And from this is a very important part of iman and aqidah that we must benefit from. And that is that what we call iman, that which we term as iman, faith, it isn't just in your heart. It's also actions. It's also actions. Actions are a part of iman. Because all of these sins and all of these signs, especially the minor ones, they're all actions. More or less. People will begin to steal, people will begin to cheat, people will begin to lie, people will begin to... These are all actions. And if these actions were not a part of iman, then how would iman decrease as time goes on? So this is also very important that we understand this. That as time goes on, iman will become weaker in people generally. So therefore these signs are a reminder for the believers to turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For the purpose that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us so that we turn to Him in worship alone. And we only worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the general answer that we give, these 3-4 points, about why we study the signs of the Day of Judgment. You have to think beyond it being just a story. You have to see what the story is saying to you. What the narrative wants you to learn. What are the lessons that we learn from the signs of the Day of Judgment? So therefore the Quran, which is the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is filled with these signs. The speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is filled. And as a constant reminder, be prepared for that day. Be prepared for that day. As much as when the Day of Judgment will occur, this knowledge is only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ السَّاعَةِ أَيَّانَ مُرْسَاهَا قُلْ إِنَّمَا عِلْمُهَا عِنْدَ رَبِّي. We shouldn't be mesmerized. We shouldn't fall into the trap as youngsters, especially in TV channels. And we come across people predicting that the Day of Judgment is going to happen in 2020, 2040. And then people go to ask that they buy all the water. What are you going to do with water when Day of Judgment comes? It's over anyway. So we shouldn't be mesmerized and fooled by this trickery. No. The Rasul ﷺ himself didn't inform us, and he didn't know when the Day of Judgment will occur, because the knowledge of this is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, it's very near, but when it is, only Allah knows. Therefore we should always be prepared for it. Constantly it should be in the forefront of our minds. And this is how the believer is. This is how the Muslim is. If you want to preserve your Islamic identity, then focus on the signs of the Day of Judgment and have that link and that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala where you're always fearing Him. This is what these signs are saying to us. And sometimes we need extra information just so that we can have that kind of picture right in front of us. To see something is different than to just hear about it. So when we look at these signs, they're actually very graphic in explaining how, for example, the Dajjal will look. How he will have Qara written on his head. How he will have one eye and the other one protruding. From what area he will come from. Who are the people that are going to be from the army of Dajjal? What is the destruction and the devastation that the Dajjal is going to commit? How is he going to fool the people? It's very graphic. Because to see something sometimes gives you more satisfaction and more confidence to believe in that thing than to just hear about it. وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّي أَرِنِي كَيْفَ تُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى قَالَ أَوَلَمْ تُؤْمِنْ. And the messengers were also upon this way. Sometimes they wanted to see something, just to increase in that faith and increase in that reality and that yaqeen that they already had. So the signs of the Day of Judgment, as explained in the Quran and the Sunnah, are actually very graphic. It's not just a story that we're telling, but it's setting the scene. Setting the scene and then taking benefits from that. Another point that I wanted to mention in this 5-10 minute introduction is that these signs, all of them, the minor signs and the major signs, the small signs and the large signs, and we'll go through this in due course. The large signs are 10 and the minor signs are many. I've collected here about 50 odd that we're going to go through, inshallah. All of these are a reality. They are haqiqi. This is not something that we can doubt. These signs were explained to us by the blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam doesn't utter something which is confusing to the people. He's a prophet who came with a clear message. La ilaha illallah. Muhammadur Rasulullah. And that which he said from his noble mouth was also clear. It wasn't to confuse us. What we'll find today is many people have fallen into this confusion and this trap. They will read about the Dajjal in the hadith. And then they'll think and think and think with their own intellect. And they'll try to give it an example, and they'll try to give an explanation which the Rasul and the Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with all of them, did not give. This is a major mistake. And this is especially reaching out to the youngsters in the audience. If anyone does this, then don't pay attention to these kind of people. You'll hear, they'll say that the Dajjal which the Prophet spoke about, it's the $1 note. It's money, it's the TV system. So they'll take the hadith and they'll completely explain them in a way which the Rasul and the Sahaba did not explain. This is a grave and major mistake. And ironically, to do this is also a sign from the signs of the Day of Judgment, where youngsters will give verdicts and it won't be based upon knowledge. It'll be based upon their desires, it'll be based upon their intellect. And they'll be misguided themselves and they'll misguide others. How ironic is that? That the very action that they're doing is actually a sign of the Day of Judgment itself. Scholars will be few. So they will come out with these explanations. When we look at, for example, Ya'juj, Ma'juj, the beast, the smoke, they will give explanations and everyone will have their own different explanation. And they have their own theories. Just like a science teacher has a theory and another science teacher has another theory. But the deen of Islam is not like that. The Rasul ﷺ came with a certain message and it was a clear message. And he didn't come with a message to confuse the people. Rather, he came with a message to stop all confusions, to stop the darkness, and to take people into the light which was bright and clear. So we have to be very aware of these signs and certain explanations that people have given based upon their own desires or based upon their own intellect. And we know about the Rasul ﷺ. Allah Azza wa Jalla has told us something very profound about our Prophet. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. That our noble Prophet ﷺ did not speak from his own desires. Rather, he spoke through revelation. اتَّبِعُوا مَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكُم مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا مِن دُونِهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ. And we have been obligated to follow that revelation, which has been revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon the noble Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So these signs are from revelation. They are a reality, and we give them the meaning that the Prophet and the Sahaba gave. And we don't try to give them a meaning that our own desires suit. And we have to be very aware about falling into this trap. Likewise, I've mentioned very briefly in the introduction that the signs of the Day of Judgment are based upon two types. The first is what we call the minor signs. These also have two subdivisions, very briefly. Some of these signs have already occurred, and some of these signs have occurred in part, and they're actually occurring as we speak. They're a continuous occurrence. Then we have the major signs. The 10 major signs which the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke about. And these major signs are those signs which indicate that one by one as they occur, that the Day of Judgment is, after this, the Day of Judgment will certainly occur. So the minor signs, in other words, are a warning. وَلَنُذِيقَنَّهُم مِّنَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَدْنَى دُونَ عَذَابِ الْأَكْبَرِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. Allah says in the Quran that He sometimes punishes people with a small punishment so that they can save and be saved from a punishment which is far greater, far larger. You will see, even as youngsters, in life sometimes Allah tests you with a small thing. And you think, why has this happened? Why me? But actually, maybe that small event that's happened in your life has made you get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because of you now being closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you've become a better Muslim, a better person. And because of that, you've probably saved yourself from falling into a problem which was far greater, maybe a problem that you couldn't even handle in the future. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with His wisdom, and the decisions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are based upon wisdom. We have to look at this, the minor signs and the major signs like that. The minor signs are there so that we can contemplate and pay attention, so that we can save ourselves and become better Muslims. That if we are around when the Dajjal occurs, and may Allah save us from the Dajjal. Say Ameen. It's not Jummah Khutbah, right? If we are around when the Dajjal comes, and let me tell you, the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to constantly make dua to be safe from the Dajjal. And Dajjal is one character, one person. He is a person, by the way, that we're really going to, inshallah, go in on, focus on, when the time occurs for this, for us to go through that, for the major signs. And one of the signs of the Day of Judgment actually is that people will stop talking about Dajjal. How ironic is that? It's an authentic hadith. So the minor signs are a warning. And when you're told by the Prophet ﷺ that the angel who's going to blow the horn, his lips are touching the horn, and his eyes are fixated towards the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, waiting for the order for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give to him to blow that horn. The Rasul ﷺ, when he informed the Sahaba about this, they were astounded. That's how close we are to the Day of Judgment. The angel right now has got his blessed lips touching the horn, which will indicate that the Day of Judgment is to now occur. He's just waiting for the order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was when? This was 1400 years ago, in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So much has happened since then. So the minor signs are a warning, so that the believers can prepare themselves, and if they are around when the major sign comes, they know how to behave. They know how to secure and safeguard themselves from falling into the traps of the shaitan and the Dajjal. So therefore, it's very important that we recognize that the signs of the Day of Judgment are split into two parts, the minor signs and the major signs. So So alhamdulillah, we will begin with some minor signs today, and we will continue with them inshallah. And of course people become heedless. They forget about this concept of the Day of Judgment. It's been 1400 years, he hasn't happened yet. Maybe it won't happen for another 1400 years. Don't think like this. This is a very bad way of thinking. Because nobody knows when this Day of Judgment will occur. And we forget. And when we're raised and standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, كأنهم يوم يرون لم يلبثوا إلا عشية أو ضحاها. And we're standing there before our Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many people are actually going to think that this entire time they spent in dunya was just like a part of a morning or a part of an afternoon. That's how small and insignificant this dunya is compared to what's in store in the akhirah. And as believers we have to work for the akhirah. وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. The akhirah is better for you and it's everlasting. For us is to pay attention to these signs and then seek refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from falling into these signs, falling into the evil that will occur as due to the coming of the Day of Judgment. So we begin with the first sign. And that is the sending of, the arrival of al-Mustafa al-Mujtaba, rahmatul lil alameen, al-Mahi al-Aqib, Nabiul Rahman, Nabiul Tawbah, Abul Qasim Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is the first minor sign. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in an authentic hadith, بِإِثْبُ أَنَا وَالسَّاعَةِ كَهَاتَيْنِ وَضَمَّ السَّبَابَةَ الْبُسْطَى. That my arrival and the Day of Judgment between us is this much space, and he put his two fingers together, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He put them together. That my arrival signals the coming of the signs of the Day of Judgment, and the Day of Judgment now becoming nearer. Why do you think that is? By the way, let me just tell you how I do my classes for newcomers. I like to also speak with the audience, otherwise my throat dries up and then I can't speak. So come on. Maybe this is the only question I'll ask today, inshallah. Why do you think the arrival of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is from amongst the signs now that the Day of Judgment and him are like this, and the signs are now going to occur? Why is that? Now,
He's the last messenger.
he's the last messenger, but I want more than that. Which youngster wants to take? Don't be shy, you can't be shy in this class. Any ideas now?
Was that the ultimate decline of mankind?
Jazakallah, barakallah fiqh. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with the final message, and he is a final prophet, final Rasul. As Muslims, we believe that there's no messenger, no prophet after Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the religion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen for us, favored us with, is al-Islam. And Islam is complete. Revelation has ceased. So this was the perfect time for the people to be made aware of what the signs were going to be, because after the coming of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there wasn't going to be any new revelation. So the people have not been left on uncertainty. This is from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has put us all upon certainty. That which the Rasul has said will occur. It's a reality. So this is one of the major reasons of why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the beginning of the signs of the Day of Judgment occurring. His message is final. And there will be no more revelation after the coming of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So therefore, all the signs are also going to be complete from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, through the teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is why, between the Rasul and the Day of Judgment, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam put his fingers up like this and he joined them. So ask yourself this question. He didn't join the thumb and the small finger like this. He could have, couldn't he? So he joined the two fingers together like this, which also shows that the Day of Judgment is actually very near. The scholars have explained that this also shows that the Day of Judgment is actually very near. And when we analyze the lives of the Sahaba, when they were told things like this, it used to increase them in their belief, increase them in their iman, increase them in their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, increase them in their fervor and in their willingness to do good, increase them in their desire to stay away from evil, to stay away from bad. Because they knew that what the Rasul said is based upon revelation, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was saying this to them, why? To cultivate them, to educate them, so that they could purify themselves and contemplate upon these signs. And they could contemplate upon how they were going to live their lives, and they could contemplate upon that this is the final message, that that's it. This is the last chance. After this, there's no more chances. This is the message. We're either going to accept it or reject it. So the coming of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is from amongst the first minor signs of the Day of Judgment. يَوْفُ فَعْزْ خِلَالًا سِتَّةً بَيْنَ يَدِي السَّاعِ إِهْدَاهُنَّ مَوْتِي. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to Auf radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that before the Day of Judgment occurs, memorize, learn about 6 signs. And from amongst them 6 signs, one of them is my death. So the coming of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a sign, and the death of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is also a minor sign. And I've just explained why that is. And the death of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually was the greatest calamity to hit, the greatest musibah to hit the believers. Because the one that they loved the most from amongst mankind was no longer amongst them. And now they truly were the Sahaba on their own. But what did they have? They had the inheritance of the Prophet with them. And what is inheritance? Ilm, knowledge. The inheritance of the Prophet is knowledge. So to seek knowledge and to learn knowledge is something which is actually obligatory upon every Muslim. And this is something that we have to take from these signs. If you don't learn the knowledge of Islam, if you don't have that desire to want to learn about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you don't want to learn about the biographies, about the events that occurred amongst the Sahaba and the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then what hope can we have of being able to safeguard ourselves from these signs as and when they occur? So the death of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a stark reminder that the believers are now on their own. And the Sahaba, in every way you can imagine, really felt lonely after the death of our noble Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But they had this knowledge which they clung onto. They had his teachings, which was always as a part of their life, and as something which guided them through right up until their death. We as believers have to try to be like that. So the death of the Rasul is a sign that the revelation has now stopped and the Day of Judgment is near. The second sign, the splitting of the moon. اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. The Day of Judgment is near. it has come there, and the moon has split. This sign has already occurred, we know, in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ibn Kathir mentions, Ibn Kathir is a scholar who has explained the Quran. You'll hear this name. Ibn Kathir mentions, rahmatullahi alayhi, that this sign occurred in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam split the moon. And this is established through so many narrations, it cannot be denied. The history that has been penned down even by the non-Muslims mentions that one of the rulers of India at the time when the Rasul split the moon, I think it's Britannica, one of the rulers of India saw that moon being split. So this is something that was a reality, it was visual, it could be seen, it happened. As I said, we don't give these things a meaning that the Rasul never gave. We don't say that it means that the moon, it was an illusion. It wasn't an illusion, it happened in reality. It wasn't magic. We don't say these things are magical. It wasn't magic. The Rasul ﷺ wasn't a magician. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as a sign to the believers and the non-believers, He made the moon split. And this is from the miracles of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And for the believers, it increases them in their iman, and for those who are upon disbelief, it's an evidence against them. How can you deny the prophethood of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam when he is splitting the moon? What more is it that you want to see? But when this was done, they said he's just a magician. Whomsoever Allah guides, none can misguide. And whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends astray, none can bring to guidance. May Allah guide all of us. May Allah guide us upon Islam and leave us upon Islam and make our deaths upon Islam and Iman. And the narrations are many concerning this. Anna Ahlal Makkah sa'alu Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam أن يريهم آية فأراهم شقاق القمر. The people of Makkah, meaning the mushrikeen of Makkah, those who opposed the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they wanted entertainment, and they kept on asking, some of them, from the Prophet, show us this, why don't you make this happen? If you're a prophet, then why don't you make this happen? And likewise they said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, show us something that will put in our hearts that you are a prophet. So the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before their very eyes, showed them the moon being split. Can you imagine? Imagine if you and I were there at that time, Allahu Akbar, and we'd witnessed this amazing miracle. How would we be? You know, sometimes you hear this thing that I saw something and it made the hair stand up on the back of my... Can you imagine? Something so amazing. And as a side point, these lessons, inshallah, I'm going to mention points of Aqidah, points of belief that we must believe as Muslims, so we can benefit from the Aqidah aspect of these things also. Miracles, when they occur at the hands of the prophets, are a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The miracles are not due to the power of the Prophet himself. This is very important to understand this. It's not the Prophet who is a powerful being who through his own powers makes a miracle happen. No. وَأُبْرِهُ الْأَكْمَهَ وَالْأَبْرَصَ وَأُحْيِي الْمَوْتَ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. Making the dead come back to life, giving the eyesight back to the blind, making the leper who has a skin problem have better skin. Miracles Prophet Jesus, Prophet Isa had, are all done why? Bi-iznillah, with the authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is very important that we understand this. This is not Harry Potter, magic tricks, no. And we should have this in our mind actually, that these are signs from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they're from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as signs for the people. And all power belongs only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Him alone. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There's no protection, there's no might, there's no power except with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam showing the people who are opposing him these signs, it wasn't an invitation to them that, look, I've done this, I'm all powerful, therefore worship me. It wasn't that. Do you see the point? Rather, the invitation through showing these signs was what? Turn in worship to one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah azza wa jalla. Because He has allowed me to do this. He's the most powerful and He is the one who has all power. This is what people were made to understand, hopefully through the miracles. But some people have fallen short in this today. They use the miracles of the Prophet ﷺ to give some of the powers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Prophet. And as believers, we can never allow this to happen. That which is with Allah only belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that which He gave to the Prophet ﷺ as a favor upon him and upon the Ummah is for the Ummah to benefit from. So this was a miracle that He did. Split the moon. And when it happened, the Rasul ﷺ said, Allahumma shahid. Oh Allah, be a witness. Be a witness to this event. Because these people who are still disbelieving, the evidence has now come right before them. This is a very good example actually in understanding what benefit we should take from learning about the sign of the Day of Judgment and how we shouldn't behave. This is how we shouldn't behave. That the signs are there, sign after sign after sign after sign, but we just turn away. Rather, the believer, he falls into submission as soon as he sees a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And some narrations mention that the moon was split between two mountains, either side. If you go onto YouTube, you see many theories. Some of the people are saying NASA has found a crack in the moon. This one has found this crack here, there. Some people are saying there's no crack in the moon, nothing. Let me tell you something. Doesn't matter what NASA finds and what it doesn't find. The words of the Prophet ﷺ are truth and a reality. And we are Muslims and we believe that. Sami'na wa ata'na. Have this principle in your lives, brothers and sisters. We hear and we obey, we affirm and we confirm and we keep it in our hearts and we act upon it. So don't fall into this trap. Let me go and see. And you'll see amazingly foolish things on YouTube as well. That Dajjal has been born. He's already born. So we have to be aware of these things. And I was speaking with somebody yesterday, and he said, Ustaad, Instagram and Facebook and this, that, and the other. And I've got 12,000 followers on, and he's a very good brother, mashallah. And I was shocked, 12,000 people. You could fill up half a football stadium with that, right? And may Allah bless the brother. He said, Ustaad, do you know about Instagram? I said, no. I've heard about it, but he said, Facebook. I said, Wallahi, I've never been on Facebook my entire life. Instagram, I said, no way. He said, Ustaad, you should learn it. I said, why? He said, because your children are going to start using it when they grow up. And this is important, actually. And I know I'm addressing the youngsters a lot in this class, but for us elders, I'm relating it back to these signs. It's important that if your children are not here, bring them here. And if you can't bring them here, then explain and break down these signs to them, because they need to be aware. Because if you don't tell them the reality concerning these signs, they're only going to go onto YouTube and find something which will be away from the Deen of Islam. And then their belief and the Iman is going to become corrupt. So we'd really like to see a lot more youngsters here, but if we can't have them here, let's at least the elders learn these signs properly so we can break it down to them. So the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he split them up. Likewise, number 3, the Bayt al-Maqdis will be conquered. إِذُ سِتَّ بَيْنَ يَدِي السَّاعَ مَوْتِ ثُمَّ فَتَحُ بَيْتِ الْمَقْدِسِ. Count 6 signs before the establishing of the Day of Judgment, and one of them is the conquering of Bayt al-Maqdis. Without going into any detail, but Bayt al-Maqdis in modern day times, you could say it's a part of modern day Palestine. Much of its heritage goes back to Sulaiman alayhi wassalam. And the third greatest masjid, you could say, for the Muslims, Masjid al-Aqsa, it's there in Bayt al-Maqdis. Who could tell me one fact about Bayt al-Maqdis concerning the prayer? I've given you a clue. Who can tell me one side?
You get 100 rewards.
Huh?
You get 100 rewards for praying.
I was looking for another one actually.
The Prophet had his home right to that, and that's where he was given the salah.
I was looking for another sign actually.
Islam will come down to
Huh?
lead the other prophets in prayer.
You guys know too much. No. قَدْ نَرَى تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِكَ فِي السَّمَاءِ فَلَنُوَلِّيَنَّكَ قِبْلَةً تَرْضَاهَا. Before the Muslims used to face the Kaaba, they used to face the direction of Bayt al-Maqdis. And the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam kept on turning his head and his eyes towards the skies. قَدْ نَرَى تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِكَ فِي السَّمَاءِ. Indeed, Allah saw your blessed face, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, continuously turning towards the heavens. Because the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam wanted to face the Kaaba instead. And this was a form of him making dua. And who was he making dua to? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why was he turning towards the heavens? Fis sama, why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above the heavens, above his throne, right? So these are parts of belief and Aqidah and Iman that we must have. So this Bayt al-Maqdis is very important. And as the brother said, this is also that masjid in which the Prophet ﷺ went from Mecca to Bayt al-Maqdis, Palestine, and he led the prophets in prayer in this masjid, and then he went on what we call the night journey, and he saw and was given many signs, and he was given a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and one of the gifts was the salah, the prayer. And a believer is not a person who rejects a gift when it's given to him. Rather, a believer takes that gift and he values that gift and he gives thanks for that gift. He makes shukr for that gift. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to respect the salah and give it the respect that it deserves. This conquering of Bayt al-Maqdis actually happened at the time of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the second Khalifa of al-Islam, Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Some say 18 Hijrah. 18 years after the Prophet ﷺ migrated from Mecca to Medina, Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu took over Bayt al-Maqdis. Many years after, it was taken back from the Muslims due to the weakness of the Muslims at that time. But here's a point to ponder over. The Prophet is telling the Sahaba that the Muslims are going to conquer Bayt al-Maqdis. The Sahaba were not hasty. They didn't want to just see everything done overnight like we want today. Why is it not happening? They weren't like this. We have become very hasty in the way that we are. The Rasul came to teach us the best of manners. And from a manner point of view, it's actually very bad to be hasty in everything. But from an Islamic point of view also, these signs, the reason people are writing about them and giving their own theories is because they're hasty. Don't be hasty with the decisions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Sahaba got on with their lives. So many things happened in them 18 years, so many things. Up until the decision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came, that in this year they were going to take over the Bayt al-Maqdis, in the era of Umar radiallahu ta'ala. And there's actually another side point of Aqidah, of benefit, of Iman that I want to share with you. The Sahaba heard this from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's such a great reward. Actually, it's mentioned in another hadith that those people that are going to take over the Bayt al-Maqdis, their status is mentioned. But you won't find the Sahaba making this their mission and their call. The elders will understand what I'm trying to say. Today you have people that it's their mission and their call is that we need to take over a certain place, or we need to establish the Caliphate, or we need to do this. But here's the Prophet telling them that you are going to do it. But they didn't make it their call, they didn't make it their da'wah, they didn't make it for the reason that they were there. Rather, they prepared, they educated themselves, they got closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when the decision came for it to happen, it happened. In this is a tremendous lesson, especially in today's modern times, where people are hell-bent, and I don't like to use that word, but they just are there to put into the mind of the youngsters, we need the Khilafah, we're going to have the Khilafah. Guess what? We said that we need a Khilafah on Monday, on Tuesday we've got a Khilafah. Here it is. Don't fall into the traps of these people. So these events, they're a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have to ponder upon them and take benefit from them. And that's a tremendous benefit that I wanted to share with you. We'll mention one more. The great fire. There will be a great fire from the area of Hijaz. لا تقوم الساعة حتى تخرج نار من أرض الحجاز تضيء نعك الإبل ببصرة. That the day of judgment will not be established up until from the land of Hijaz a fire erupts. And due to that fire, the backs of the necks of the camels in Basra, where's Basra? Iraq. The light is shone, the light of that fire is on there. Imam Nawawi rahmatullahi alayhi, who explained this hadith amongst other scholars also, he said that this fire occurred in the year 654 Hijri, meaning 650 years after the death of Rasulullah, after the Hijrah of Rasulullah, this fire has already occurred. And he said that it occurred on the western side of Medina. Hijaz is what you could say, some of Hijaz is modern day Saudi Arabia and these places. It occurred on the western side of the city of Medina. Likewise, Imam Ibn Kathir rahmatullahi alayhi mentions the same thing. That there was a great fire in Medina. And it was so tremendous that it burnt for a month continuously. And it remained bright for 1 month at least continuously. We don't want to get confused between this fire and another fire that will occur before the Day of Judgment. There will be another great fire, which we're going to go through inshallah, that will occur before the Day of Judgment. And that will gather the people to be accounted for before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's a different fire, this is a different one. So the significance of fire. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. Fire is of two types. One is the fire that we have before us here in this dunya. The purpose of that is to burn. We know what color it is, we know how it looks, we know what purpose it serves. But then there's another fire which has burned for so long and which has so much heat within it. There is no fire on the earth that you can compare to it. That's the fire of hell. Its color has changed completely. And once the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was sitting with the group of his companions and they heard a loud thud. Munzu Harifan Sab'ina, he was with his companions and he said, do you know what that was? They said, Allah and His Messenger know best. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He said, this was a stone that was thrown from the top of the fire of hell. And it's been 70 years and it still hasn't reached the bottom. 70 years. So think about this fire in Medina and how great it was. But then think about the great creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fire of hell. And think about those people that are going to be thrown in that, for what reason. And then let's make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that fire. May He save us from even seeing that fire. May He save us from the steam of that fire. I think we're going to end it here today. I want to thank every single one of you for attending. Inshallah, we're going to continue going through the minor signs for the next couple of weeks, and there's a lot more to say about this. I hope you're benefiting from this class. If you've got any suggestions, any feedback, any questions, now's the time to ask. I think we'll finish there. Subhanaka wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Naam ya Shaykh.
Ustaad, I've got two questions. One question is what you spoke about at the beginning of the lecture, that at this moment in time there's lots of so-called celebrities on social media making analogies with regards to the signs of the Day of Judgment. One of them is a guy that I'm going to name because we get a lot of questions about, a guy called Imran Hussein, and he comes quite high up on the YouTube rankings when people look for the signs of the Day of Judgment, and he uses metaphorical analogies of contemporary events, saying that these are the signs of judgment. And one of the other questions is what you just said at the end. There was massive fires in California recently, and some Muslims have been forwarding social media things that this is a part of the fire that is part of the signs. So if you could just elaborate on these two things for us.
Imam Bukhari, rahmatullahi alayhi, in his Sayyid Bukhari. I'm going to mention books now. Right? He has a chapter heading, we all know it. What is it? Al-ilmu qabla al-qawli. You must have knowledge of something before you say something or you do something. You must have knowledge of Islam before you speak about Islam or you make an action in Islam. These people, this Imran ibn Nazar Hussein and other than that, who are upon the way of saying that the Dajjal is a system, so they ignore all the hadith of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam about how the Dajjal looks, about the hadith of Tamim al-Dari, about Jassasa and all these things. The great fire has already occurred and it's now occurring in California and so on and so forth. And some of them go to the extent of saying what year the Day of Judgment will occur. Dr. Tahir al-Qadri Sahib has actually in one speech given a year as well. I forgot what it was, but it's not worth paying attention to. But the point is, all of this, is it based upon knowledge? They're not talking about how to fix a car here either. They're talking about Islam. So in other words, is what they're saying based upon Islamic knowledge? If it is, give us the evidence. Hatu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqin. Give us the evidence from Allah and His Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Islam is not like you're going to treat it like a science experiment. And then you're going to put that into the hearts of the people. That the Dajjal is the currency system. Are you going to be responsible that as and when the Dajjal really does occur, they won't recognize him because they don't believe in him? He's right there in front of them with that sign. All of the signs of the hadith are there. But Imran Hussein, are you going to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say that the reason this person befriended Dajjal was because he thought Dajjal wasn't even existing? Rather, Dajjal was just a system. That's a very interesting dilemma which they're putting themselves in today. So there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that these people have from the Quran or Sunnah to come out with these theories. And then they don't want to leave them as theories, they actually make them a reality. And I'll tell you why this is. It's actually a weakness in their Aqidah, their fiqh and their manhaj. These signs of the Day of Judgment, this is Aqidah, this is fiqh and this is manhaj. Without this, you cannot be a believer. You cannot be a Muslim, rather. They believe that narrations which are ahad, and we went through this in our previous classes, cannot form part of Aqidah. They must be mutawatir. Mutawatir narrations are those which so many people, so many Sahaba, and then those after them, and then those after them have gathered upon in narrating that it cannot be a lie. And for them, ahad narrations are those which are less than that, which is true, but they have their own understanding behind that. That's the first problem. Many of these narrations are not mutawatir. They're ahad. So they think that they can outright reject them. And the second reason that they say these silly things is because they have the understanding and the manhaj of the Mu'tazila. The Mu'tazila were a group of people, a sect, who would explain verses of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Rasul with their intellect. These people are from the Mu'tazila. There is no doubt in that whatsoever. And they'll probably gladly say they're Mu'tazili, by the way. Philosophers. The deen of Islam has come to give certainty. Not to have this theory, that theory, that theory, that theory. It's a religion of certainty. Just like the Day of Judgment is a certainty, the signs are a certainty. And they're so self-amazed with themselves. They want to be the first one to announce to the whole world, let me tell you about this sign which has now just occurred. I am the one who found this. It's nothing but self-amazement, ujub, and self-delusion. And there's a lot more that can be said, but we leave it at that. So be aware of these people that are going on the internet and spreading these things. Allahu Alam.
The fire that was in Medina, but did they actually burn or light the skins of the camel in Basra?
Yes.
Who said that?
Ibn Kathir. He mentioned that the fire was lit for a month and it was so bright. And then there's a lot more that can be said on that. Some of them said that they traveled from far, far distance and they would see the fire.
But the point is,
But the point is, we haven't got a narration which says that so-and-so Sahabi went to Basra and he saw the back of a camel being lit because of that fire. But it's sufficient for us that the Rasul said that will happen.
No, it will happen, but how do we know it's this incident? Because this incident specifically refers to the camel.
How do we know that this incident is about that fire?
About that, yeah.
That's what the Salaf have explained it to us as. That's what they've said.
But, I mean, that's an interpretation.
But it's an interpretation which many have agreed with them. So therefore that gives it, and that lends it some credence and credibility. There are other opinions. There are some who say that hasn't happened. But that's a minority of the scholars. So the majority here are saying, and these are people who were around at that time. Ibn Kathir was around at that time. Imam Nawawi was around, and they've mentioned these things, so therefore it holds even more value than who were the scholars that opposed them at that time. You'd find it very far and few. So there's almost like an accepted type thing that this is probably, most likely rather, that fire. And the yaqeen of these things is all with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Allahu alam.
How many years after Hijrah was
654.
Did people live in Medina at that time?
Yes.
Even with that great fire?
Did they live or leave?
Reside in Medina?
Yeah, this happened on the western side. So the rest of the Medina wasn't consumed. All of Medina was not consumed by the fire, that's the point. Yeah, so we can expect that some of the people may well have remained. Allah knows best. For further information, you can look at Bidayah wa Nihaya and Tarikh ibn Khaldun and these other books, which have some detail in there now.
Ustaad, can you just briefly recap the minor signs, just for the brother that missed out as well?
That we went through today, yeah? The coming of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, number one. The death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam being a part of that as number two. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam splitting the moon by way of miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, number three. And number four, the the conquering of Bayt al-Maqdis, and number five, the great fire. Subhanakallah, we have the Ashhadu la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. One thing I want to apologize for actually is we seem to neglect the sisters always with questions. But today, if you've got any questions, you can, but we have literally 5 minutes, inshallah. They just put them underneath the...
If the sister have got any questions, if you write them on a piece of paper and put them underneath the partition, and then we can try to answer them for you. And if the brother's got another 1-2 questions, we can answer them. Just want to echo what brother Ustaad said before the Q&A. We'd like to thank all the young people that have come, and we would encourage all the family members to bring more young people, because these lectures are specifically designed for a younger audience. And the more young people that attend, the greater encouragement it gives the speaker, and that way, inshallah, the whole community benefits. So I don't know if the sister's got any questions. Do you have a question? No question? Any more questions from the brothers? Any more from the sisters? Jazakumullah khairan. Barakallah for you. So we've got lots of events coming up. We've got Ustaad Abul Hasan's class tomorrow, 7:30. Unfortunately, that's only for brothers only. That'll be live on YouTube. Also, we've got our charity event dinner coming this Saturday, so I look forward to seeing all the St Albans brothers there, all the Bedford brothers, and by default the Luton brothers, inshallah. And everybody's welcome to come, mashallah. The money that's earned from that, there's a question there. The money that's going to be earned, the brother Hassan, may Allah reward him, the owner of the restaurant, is going to give it to Luton Extension Appeal. There's a question from the sisters, brother Governor will answer that, inshallah.
Sister wanted to know more about the Dajjal, and for the young people to understand. Don't worry, inshallah, that's coming. We will really set the scene for Dajjal, the way the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam went into many details concerning that. But today and next few lessons is going to be more about the minor signs. So, sister, be rest assured, inshallah, we're going to cover that. Barakallah.
कोई रोटी शोटी दियो पेपर देने से
Well, we'll pray Salat al-Asr 10 minutes, yeah?
10 to 2.
Anybody else?
Brothers leave from the fire exit here. The brothers want to leave, but we're going to pray Asr at 10
No.